If you've been uploading print-on-demand products but still haven't made a single sale, this video is for you. Here's why it's not working and exactly what you should be doing about it. Now, I am a full-time print-on-demand seller and I have been doing this for over 5 years. And in that time, I have seen my fair share of new sellers start this print-on-demand business being so excited, but then end up giving up before they've ever even made that very first sale. But this doesn't have to be the case for you. So in today's video, I'm going to share with you the real reason you're not making any sales and some tips about what you can do to actually make that first sale if you're still trying to do that. So let's not waste any more time and just jump right into it. Now, the real reason you have not made your first sale boils down to one thing in almost every case, and that is you don't have enough data. Your sales are typically going to come from consistent uploading, testing different products and niches, doing new variations and iterations of those over and over. It's not going to be about finding that one perfect product that gives you your first sale. So what I've seen is most beginners quit this thing before they even know what works. They typically haven't uploaded enough products, they haven't tried enough different niches, they haven't tried different product types. They're stuck doing one thing over and over and that just isn't working, and so they end up giving up without making a lot of changes. When I was first getting started selling, it took me uploading in tons of different niches, trying things that at first I had never even thought of to be able to make that first sale. I wasn't able to just go in my first day, pinpoint a niche that was going to make sales, upload that, and then the next day I was getting clicks and purchases. It really took me experimenting in a lot of different areas to be able to make that first sale. So that is something that you really need to think about in this business. Now, the next thing that is super important for making sure you actually get that first sale, and this is a mistake that I see so many people making, is they are not selling on a high volume marketplace. Now, what do I mean by that? So there are typically several different types of print on demand sites that you can sell on. Some of them are easier to get started on than others, but you're going to have vastly different results. So in one bucket, you kind of have sites like Redbubble, TeePublic, Zazzle, Teespring, all those kind of sites. They are very easy to get started. They have a marketplace right on the platform where you're uploading your designs. They're going to bring some traffic to you, but typically those are going to have much fewer sales because the barrier of entry is so low. So many sellers are flooding those marketplaces all the time with new products, so it's a lot harder to compete. Now, I don't think you should just get rid of those completely. They're definitely a good secondary source of sales, but you really need to be on a high volume, high traffic marketplace. And the two that I always recommend are going to be Etsy as well as Amazon merch. Now, Amazon merch, this is the place that so many people want to be, but it is very, very exclusive. You have to apply to this program, you have to get accepted, and even once you're accepted, it's really, really slow to get started because you only can upload a certain amount of products. So the place that I typically recommend almost every new seller get started on is going to be Etsy, integrated with a manufacturing partner like Printify. So for selling on Etsy, you're going to need someone who's actually doing all the legwork, that's printing, packing, and shipping those items. And Printify is who I use. They're totally free. I will have all their information linked down below if you want to make an account to integrate with your Etsy shop. But the beautiful thing about Etsy is there is a little bit higher barrier of entry. There's some fees for each listing. You have to find a manufacturing partner. You have to do a lot more of the back end legwork for that. So not as many people are competing on that marketplace, which means you have a lot more buyers to potentially purchase your items. And they get so much traffic every single day, so it's a great place to actually make organic sales without spending any money on ads. So if you're wondering why you haven't made a sale and you're not in a marketplace like Etsy or Amazon, you need to get on one of those. Now, the next tip for helping you get your very first sale is you need to start with just a couple core products. Now, I know that I said at the beginning that sometimes it comes down to you not trying enough different things to get sales, but a lot of times I see people also go in the other direction where when it comes to product types, they are literally trying everything under the sun. But I also see the opposite. When it comes to trying different product types, people are trying almost every option that is out there and not having a lot of success. A lot of times we try uploading maybe a t-shirt and that doesn't sell. So the next day we're going to do some sweatshirts. Then the next day we're going to do tumblers. And then we're like, well, maybe I should do a tote bag or a journal instead. None of this is working. But a lot of times you're just not sticking to the product type long enough. So in print on demand, we need to have products in a high enough volume and uploaded for long enough to actually be able to get seen and make sales. So if you're switching almost every day the types of products you're putting up there, you're never giving your shop enough volume of something to see if it actually works. So I highly recommend picking a couple different product types that are going to be the core ones that you're going to stick with before you make this first sale. Now, Printify has tons and tons of options out there for products you can sell, things you probably didn't even think about, like items for pets, for babies. They have things like candles. But a lot of times the tried and true ones that I typically recommend starting with is something like an apparel item, so a t-shirt or a sweatshirt, and then something to drink with. So like a mug, a tumbler, those are really, really good options. And those are the types of things that people are looking to purchase all the time. You definitely can always expand later, but don't overwhelm yourself in the beginning. Now, the next tip to help you make your first sale is probably one of the most important, and that is do not go generic with your niches. This is probably the biggest pitfall I see new sellers making when they're complaining about not making their first sale. And I'll ask them about their shop. So tell me a little bit about the items you're selling. And they'll say something like, well, I'm selling funny shirts or sarcastic shirts or cute cat shirts or shirts for nurses. Now, all of those are very profitable niches. People are looking for those shirts all the time. But because there are so many other sellers out there, that is just way too generic for you to be able to compete and actually make sales. There's 1,000 other people selling funny t-shirts or cute cat t-shirts. So what you need to do is find a more specific sub niche of that bigger niche. So for example, with those niches that I talked about, if you wanted to find a way that you could actually compete, instead of just a cute cat mug or a nurse t-shirt, you could combine them and make something like a funny cat mug for nurses. And that would be something that someone would actually be looking for, but there would be way less competition than just a generic nurse mug or a generic cat mug. So I've kind of called this my cross-niching method. It's something that I talk about all the time and love letting new sellers know about, that you can take two really popular categories, cross them together, and have a very specific niche that has a way better chance of helping you get that first sale. Some of the categories I love to cross together are things like holidays and hobbies. So for example, you could have like a pickleball Halloween t-shirt would be a great sub niche of both of those really popular categories, or like careers and holidays are a great one. So maybe you have something like the Very Merry Dentist, which combines like Christmas and the profession of dentistry. So that's really how it works, is you need to find these very specific niches and try enough of them to actually make sales. So I have a entire guidebook for you guys that has over 40,000 different niche ideas and combinations. It's totally free. You can get that if you just sign up below for the free workshop that I have listed right there, and I will send everything to your email. But this is a great way to help you start figuring out what types of niches are people actually looking for and making sure you're not going way too generic with them. Now, the next tip that I tell new sellers all the time that actually very frequently helps people reach their first sale without really even thinking a lot about it is that you need to be setting an upload goal for your shop instead of a sales goal. So a lot of times when new sellers start, they're like, okay, I want to make my first 10 sales this month, or I want to have 100 sales by the time we reach the end of the year. Now, those are very good goals, but a lot of times there is no action behind them. What I have found is that if you pick goals that are actionable, things that you actually have control over, you are way more likely to actually reach your goal of making a first sale or even making your first 100 sales. So the very first goal I tell almost everybody to stick with is uploading your first 100 products. Now, this might be a little discouraging to hear, but almost never do I see someone making a sale before they have 100 uploads. Now, it does happen. There are flukes where people upload an item and the next day it does make a sale, but typically you're going to have enough volume and enough time in your shop to start making those sales. So a really good benchmark to reach for is 100 listings. Now, typically in print on demand, you are only ever going to sell a fraction of the products you have uploaded. So this could be anywhere from 1 to like 5% of your products will be the ones that actually make money and get sales, and the other 95+% are just going to be there either waiting or trying different things. So even in my case, after 5 years with thousands and thousands of different designs and products uploaded, I still sell less than 5% of my entire catalog. So not every item you make is going to be a winner, and having 100 products uploaded is just going to give you enough volume that even if only 1% of your items are selling, there could be an item item that is going to make sales within those 100 products. Now, definitely the more you have, the more chances you have of actually getting seen and making sales and pinpointing something that's going to be a real moneymaker. But right now, do not focus on sales. Just focus on getting your first 100 products uploaded, and this is going to be huge in helping you get that very first sale. I've had so many different new sellers tell me that pretty much the week that they got to that 100 sale threshold is when they finally saw their first sale being made, and that is not uncommon at all. Now, the next thing that you need to be doing to make your first sale might be something that you've not really paid attention to, and that is you must be paying attention to making good mock-ups. Now, sometimes even more than the design that you have, the mock-up is what is going to sell your product, especially on Etsy. If you have something that just looks way too generic, that is the same as so many other people, that doesn't really look like a real person is wearing this, that's not exciting at all, that doesn't make it look cute, you are probably not going to make a sale even if you have an incredible item. So you really need to be investing time and oftentimes even some money into getting good mock-ups. Now, what I have found is that mock-ups with people in them generally do much better, and I typically like to crop out most of the face and kind of keep the mock-up from like chin level to below where the design of the t-shirt is for an apparel item. But just including some kind of lifestyle mock-up for your designs is going to make such a difference. So if you haven't been doing this yet, this could be the one change that is going to really help your shop make those first sales. Now, there are many places out there to get mock-ups, and a lot of times you're paying individually for them, but when you are experimenting with what works in the beginning stages of your shop, I like to be able to try a lot of different things. That's what I personally did, and I love this site Placeit. They have kind of a subscription-based model where if you pay a monthly price, you're going to get access to their library of thousands and thousands of different mock-ups. So this allows you to try a lot of different things. You can kind of A/B test or experiment on different listings with what mock-ups work. And then once you find what works well, you can keep doing that over and over. But I love that I didn't have to pay like $1 or $2 per photo, even if I wanted to change it up every single day while I was making my first couple hundred uploads. I'll have all their information linked down below as well. Now, the next thing that is very helpful in thinking about making your first sale is sticking to learning one thing and implementing it every single week. Now, what I see so many new sellers doing that are very excited about this business model is they get started and then they go to someplace like YouTube or Instagram, and they're just watching video after video with tips and ideas and inspiration and niches they could try and new product types for their print-on-demand shop, and they just get stuck in this cycle of learning and learning and learning, but they're never going and actually implementing that in their shop. So while videos like this very one that I'm making right now are helpful, they are not going to do anything for you if you're not implementing what you're learning. So I highly suggest, if you're going to watch a video or you're going to get some tips, picking one specific thing that you are going to focus on this entire week and going ahead and just working on your business and implementing that before you're trying to learn anything new. So in the beginning stages, helpful videos are things like how to design really sellable t-shirts. But if you watch a video or a couple videos, take that information and go ahead and start designing. Don't just leave that in your brain and then go move on to watching videos about SEO and then videos about making good mock-ups. You really need to give yourself time to learn the different skills in print on demand. And once you feel like that week has gone well, you've kind of mastered that first skill you're doing, then move on to something else. Maybe next week you're going to focus on writing really good titles. So you're going to maybe watch 1 or 2 resources to help you learn about that, but then you're immediately going to implement it. So if you're just watching information, we feel like sometimes we are working on our business, but we're really not doing any of those actionable steps that are going to move the needle to making sales, which is typically just uploading new products. That's the number one factor in if you're going to make sales. Now, this last tip is what you should do once you have made that first sale to go ahead and scale that to 10, 20, 30, 100 more sales after that. Is once you've made all of your uploads and you've waited long enough to get that very first sale, that's such an exciting moment. But what you should immediately do is start replicating what you have done that has worked well. So when you've made that first sale, you have validated that you know what works, you found a product that can sell, you found a niche that people are interested in. So you are going to analyze what type of product this was, maybe what color is it on, what niche am I selling in, what type of design design did I do? What text, what fonts did I use? What worked really well on this listing? Did I try a different kind of mock-up? So once you kind of analyze what you have done that worked well, take that information and make 10 or more listings that are very, very similar. So for example, if you did make that funny cat mug for nurses, you could say, okay, I made a sale of a funny cat mug. Now, what if I took that same information, but instead I made it on a sweatshirt and a t-shirt? Or what if I took that funny cat mug niche and I just made a little tweak and I made like a funny dog nurse mug, or I made a funny beagle nurse mug. So take the information that has helped you make that first sale and make some slight tweaks and variations on it and keep uploading more and more in that niche. This is what I have personally done over and over throughout the years. Anytime I make a sale, that has validated to me that people are actually looking for and buying this niche or this type of product. So I am going to make more and more of that. So I own more and more of the real estate in those niches or on those pages, so that every time someone looks up like funny cat nurse gift, I am going to be all over those pages because I have made so many different products and designs for that specific niche. And that is really what has helped me get to the place that I am right now, where I'm consistently making money every single month. And that's where I know a lot of you guys want to land as well. So you need to try enough things, but once you find something that's working, you need to lock in on it and really, really make as many products as you can in that specific type or niche. Now, I know it can be frustrating, but the main thing I want you guys to take away from this is do not give up on this business model. If you've uploaded 20 products, if you've been at it for a couple weeks and you still haven't made a sale, you just need to stick with it long enough, implement many of the tips that I talked about today, and just keep uploading. That is the biggest thing. If you take nothing else from this video, you just need to know that you need to have enough uploads in your shop to actually make sales. And if you want some really good ideas on how to design some of your first products to actually get clicks and make things that people want to buy, I highly recommend this video next. And if you want to get that free cross niching guide I talked about along with that video workshop, you can get that down below in the description. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in my next video.